All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us for our July Luncheon Lab. Appreciate your patience as we got some technical things set up. So good to see everyone. I'm going to share my screen and we will jump right into our workshop. And the plan is always to be done by 1 p.m. So thank you again for attending. And this is the 4 R's of brand building. Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Everything sounds good. You can see the first slide deck. That would be great. All right. Great. Looks like we're good to go there. All right. So welcome again. My name is Reggie Holmes. I am a founder and creative director with Enthuse Creative. I work primarily with small businesses and entrepreneurs, helping them on all facets of brand building. And I was really excited to, we do these every month, and excited about this topic in particular, because it's not so much dealing with the creative or visual or really technical aspects of brand building. But this is something that is hopefully really accessible for everyone. So that's a little bit about me. I'm joined in person by Ken and by Bella, my intern for the summer. We'd love to learn a little bit more about you all that are here. So feel free to put your contact information in the chat. I have no problem with networking happening while the Luncheon Lab is happening. As I mentioned, we do these every month, and this will be recorded on our YouTube channel for you to be able to watch the replay. And the notes and deck are available if you would like them. And our objective for today is really quite simple. I want to give all of you as small business owners and brand stewards some strategies and tactics to be able to grow your brand while you're doing the other things that actually help you grow your business. So these activities are designed to be able to be things that you can do while you are focused on whatever it is that makes you money and actually helps you to grow the business that you're growing. So these things are meant to kind of work around those things. So we're just going to, share these tools and have some great discussion around that. You can feel free to ask questions as we go along. I'll try to stop and answer if we have some good questions or comments as we go along. But just to make sure that we get through all the material, I like to kind of hold questions to the end. But if there's something that you really want to share or ask in the chat, feel free to do that. We'll be monitoring that so we can actually answer as we go along. Definitely want to encourage participation. So a little bit about branding. These are just kind of my definitions that I like to use. I'm a big proponent of making things as simple as possible. So my simple definition of brand is an entity's communicated and perceived identity. And so that is not only what the brand, be it a person, be it an institution or organization, what they say they are, but also how the marketplace, how the public perceives that. So it's those two things working together to give you a sense of what that is, what that person or entity is. And then branding is all the efforts to create and shape that identity. So those are things that are passive and active, that are tangible and intangible, that go toward creating whatever identity that entity wants to shape. So that's what we get when we talk about brand building, is essentially those activities that will help that identity to be created and to be formed. And I believe that there are 3 basic functions of what a brand is or does. It's to identify, to connect, and differentiate. And as we go through some of these brand building tactics, we'll kind of come back to that time and again. So in our approach, as we kind of look at each of these areas, we want to ask ourselves, what is it? Why is it important? And then how do we use it? So there's kind of 3 questions that form our approach to looking at these different R's as it relates to brand building. And one thing that I want to make sure I mention is that, as I said before, they are really for any business or industry. These are things that can be implemented and used across the board, no matter what type of business you're in. I know we have folks who are in marketing, folks who are in other professional services. No matter what you do, there should be some way that you can use these strategies and tactics that we're going to talk about today, and they add to your business without really taking anything away, because in a lot of cases they are activities that we might already be involved in. We're just thinking about using them for the purpose of branding. I have this equation that I like to use, and you'll see it referenced time and again throughout the workshop. But it's what I call the grand brand equation, and it's really simple. It's visible times viable equals valuable. And so as we think about increasing the value of your brand in and of itself, and also for your customers, we want to think about activities that help your brand to be more visible, and then also activities that help your brand to be more viable. And as you multiply those efforts, that's ultimately going to be what increases the value of your brand, again, in and of itself, and also to the people that benefit from your products or services. So all of the activities that we're going to talk about that are brand building strategies and tactics are meant to help you to either be more visible or more viable. And so we want to keep this simple equation in the back of our minds as we talk about the different things we'll talk about today. All right. So the 4 R's of brand building. All right. The first one is research, right? We've all researched. We've all, done that for academic purposes. We've all done that for business purposes. It's not something that we're unfamiliar with. Research, the acquisition of that information that's used to gain or maintain a competitive advantage. So this is not just looking up, how many stats your favorite athlete had in the last season, right? These are things that you are using to get a better understanding of your own business, how you're performing in certain key areas, your customers, their sentiment, their habits and activities as it relates to your business. And that could be current, past, or prospective future customers. And then also your competitors. The nature of the world that we live in, there's research that can be performed all the time. There's data that's being generated all the time, whether it's something that you're actively pursuing or not. Data is there, and we all have to become more competent and aware of how we can use it to really help grow our businesses. So what is valuable to your customers allows you to maximize your value to them. This is the why it's important. So it's not just having the information, it's having it and then being able to use it in a way that allows us to give more value to our customers. And knowing what's happening in the marketplace is similar. So it's really thinking about research in terms of our customers and our competitors in the marketplace. And so the more we know what's happening, we're able to make better decisions. And as a business owner, as a brand steward, being able to make better decisions allows you to really position your business in a way that is different and unique and valuable to your customers. And these are some examples of ways that you might use different types of data through research, whether it's bettering your brand positioning, coming up with a different pricing or business model to be more competitive. All right, a great example, a place like Trader Joe's. So Trader Joe's was recently voted in a survey by a company, Axios, as the most reputable, trusted company in the country, ahead of a lot of other companies that we know and are very popular and famous. But Trader Joe's has done a great job of positioning themselves using data as a retailer that has the right mix of really quality, hard to find products, produce and things like that at the right price point. And so they give you the premium feel in a very intimate, approachable setting. And so they take some of the best of what you might look for in a store like Whole Foods, which is typically going to be much larger than a Trader Joe's. And they've distilled that into an experience that you have throughout their whole brand. But they've only been able to do that by looking at data on where their competitors are and strategically positioning themselves based on research. So, and it's worked across the board throughout different demographics. Trader Joe's is well liked, trusted, and continues to be one of the strongest brands out there. And so they're a great example of how you can find something unique and differentiating and really make a strong impact on your customers through using something like research. So how do we do it? What are some ways that we can use research? How do we use this R to our advantage? And where can we start to find some of this data? So there's obviously metrics and analytics in every platform that you might use to get your brand out there or to market your company. They are going to provide you a dashboard of data, visitors, people that have engaged or interacted with your post or your content. And so I realized that in our day-to-day businesses, not a lot of us will necessarily spend time really poring over the metrics and analytics, but I think it's important to become familiar with what they mean and what they tell you about your activities online. I don't think any of us run businesses or organizations that exist not online. So if you're going to engage in these platforms, it's important that we know what's happening. And so the metrics and analytics involved in different social media, digital channels are really important. SERPs are basically just search engine results pages. So the biggest search engine out there is Google. The next is YouTube. So using the results of any keyword or question that you might enter, that's a way of performing research, finding out what other people are looking for and the most common well-regarded answers to those questions. And one thing that I found helpful recently is using Google search and then putting that search through a YouTube search because there's, I don't forget the exact stat, but there's hundreds of thousands of hours of content that are uploaded every day. So what happens is there's usually a video explanation of something that you might look for online. So it's a great way to sort of cross-reference and also find other key information. So studying what comes up on search engine results is a great way to get research about, what your customers are talking about, what are the problems that are being asked, because every time you put something into a search engine, it's essentially an expression of intent. And so the search engine is giving you responses that it thinks is solutions to your problem. And it will also begin to suggest other things that people have thought about as a result. There's always, related content, if you will, on something like YouTube. So there's always a question, and then there are other questions that come about as a result. And so that provides opportunities for you to create new solutions or deliver content that answers these questions. Social media, much like, the idea of metrics and analytics, but also people are asking questions on these social channels as well. And so looking through content, many of us have probably spent time scrolling, aimlessly. I think our challenge as business owners is to use that time to Look for content that is relevant, content that can be ethically repurposed or perhaps interpreted in our own way. And just the questions that people are asking. I've become a fan of saving various posts from people that are thought leaders or experts, and then for my own research and study, or just to be able to turn that into some content that I use for my own purposes. So social media is a treasure trove of free solutions that have been provided for problems that your customers are having. Your customers, asking them questions that help to give you a competitive advantage. For example, why they chose you, why they chose to work with you as opposed to your competitors, what they enjoyed about the process, what they didn't enjoy about the process. All that's going to allow you to be able to provide a better process for them or the next customer down the road. Culture and the marketplace. We'll look at an example shortly, but again, all these search engines and tools that are out here in the digital landscape it's in their interest to provide relevant content and information. And so they want you to know what's happening, what's popular, so you can be relevant. That's the way that we rank. That's the way that we show up for various searches. So it's in their interest to make sure that you avail yourself of that information. And so they do a good job of presenting that. If you look on any platform, they make access to the latest news, breaking news, popular trends, trending content, things that other people are talking about and that the market and the public has said is relevant. They have a great way of making that available to us so we can be responsive to it. And then just sort of the catch-all is like overlooked sources. So I think about my own email inbox, right? There's a lot of emails in there. I'm ashamed to say how many are in there. But, I subscribe to a lot of newsletters. I don't always read all of them, but my signing up and continuing to keep the subscription is evidence that I find it relevant, at least. And so, spend some time sort of searching for content that you want to know about in your own email inbox. There's a good chance that maybe someone has written a great post or email about what you're looking for, and it's just there in your inbox. You didn't read it, or it's in some other folder. I've found content that has been very helpful for things that have helped me in growing my brand, in content that's already been in my inbox. So I think just running some searches through that, as well through your Google Drive or your OneDrive, wherever you keep your files. If you're like me, I draft a lot of documents that nothing ever happens to them. They just kind of sit there, but it's a place for me to put my ideas down. But it's good to sort of go back and search through those as you have time to just see what maybe you've already started, what could be an incredible blog post or a video series or something of that nature. It's already there. It's just a matter of you sort of mining that and finding it. So those are some ways that we can start to do research. And again, these are things that are, free, readily available. We just have to understand the power in them and start to use them. This is just a shot of Google Analytics. There's a lot happening here, but this is from my own personal website, giving me a lot of data about who's coming, how many were new, how many times they came, where they came from. And so running these searches from time to time, looking at this data, beginning to understand what it means. The challenge is sometimes it's very overwhelming, but even for understanding something like this platform, there's lots of free resources and information out there to be able to understand what it means and how it can help you with building your brand. Another example, this is Google Alerts. And so you can set up a search every, you can have it come as often as you want, but it's essentially going to sweep the internet for content related to the keywords that you tell it to search for. You can, there's lots of other search parameters here as well. And you can tell it where you want it to go. But this is basically doing the job of getting all of this content that whenever it's something new is out there on the internet, bringing it right to your inbox, which is hugely helpful. If I put brand strategy here in this sample search. So whatever it is that you need to know about as far as your business that you want to know about, you can have Google do the work for you and bring that information to your inbox every day. So they also have a service called Google Trends, which is completely free. It does something similar as far as aggregating trending topics and making that information relevant to you. So there's a big push through all of these different channels toward personalization and curation. And so it's the idea of tailoring all this wealth of information that's being created every day to your own purposes. And so the challenge for us as business owners is to find creative and helpful ways to do that are going to help you, position your own business for growth. So, as I was talking about the different analytics and metrics, this is from Facebook. And so my Facebook page is tied into my Instagram page. And this is sort of the quick snapshot that it shows on the left, and then there's more detailed information on the right. But there's lots of data here, and it's valuable to sort of understand what it means, at least the trend that it's telling me, the direction that it's telling me to go in. So, and again, it's to the platform's benefit to make all this information available to you, so you'll continue to use it and experiment and use it to grow your own business. So those are just some examples of research. Again, if you're on any of these platforms, if you're doing any of these things already, all this information is there for you. So R number 2 is what I call reputationships, which is obviously a made-up word, but it's a combination of reputation and relationship. So I like to say that it's a relationship based on or rooted in your positive professional. It's people in your circle. They're not necessarily going to be friends or close acquaintances. They may have been people that you have been introduced to through a third party or just connected with at an event. And they're not usually going to be a client or somebody that you provide a direct service to, but they are people that hold you in a certain amount of esteem because of your professional reputation. And you're connected to them simply because they know who you are and what you do, and they have a positive impression of you. So the word reputation carries with it the idea of credit and esteem. And so these are people that simply, they esteem you as a professional. You've never done anything to undermine that. You do quality work. And so you're on their radar, even if you're not someone that you would consider a friend or be really close to, but they are a positive professional acquaintance. And so the goal is to build more and more of these relationships where people may not know you personally, but they do know you as a quality professional. And so you want to build them, maintain them, and increase in these things over time. And so this is important because as is commonly said, people like to work with people that they know, like, and trust. And the reality is that you may know a lot of people. You may like a lot, but you're not going to like all of the people that you know. And you're certainly not going to trust all the people that you like. So as we go down that list, the number gets smaller and smaller. But the idea of reputationships is that you are connected with a lot of people, and they get an opportunity to see your work, to understand how you work as a professional, and that builds at least some implicit trust there. In our world today, I mean, trust is in short demand. We have things like data breaches, we have corrupt people, and we hear about all these things on the news. So if you can establish trustworthiness, even if it's sort of implied through other parties, it all makes you more valuable. All that helps your brand. And some of this gets into personal branding, but the idea is that your professional brand sort of has this factor as well. So reputationships influence how you're perceived. And we talked about how perception is really half of what branding is. And it allows you to be able to connect others. So it's not just these reputationships that serve me, but it's also I'm connected to a lot of people and I can make connections. And that also helps to increase your perceived value. So what are some things that help us with that? How do we do that? Things like professional credentials and certifications, they speak to your expertise and credibility. They also speak to this idea of community, right? If you have any sort of credential, it means that, yes, you took some tests and exams, but also you're an accepted, validated, viable member of this community of others that have that credential as well. Things like speaking and thought leadership, that where people see you operating in a positive professional environment. That's very important. I get stopped, I don't know, at least once a month from people that have never met me personally, but they know me through LinkedIn, or they saw something that I posted. And so they see me in some other context, but they make a positive association through some content or some experience that they've had with me in a professional setting. Another way is to tag along with people who are experts and who have that large network and following. And online, that could be simply posting a comment to something that they've put out. So creating some sense of association or connection, that can be really valuable. Sometimes people don't know you, but they see that you had a sharp comment on another post that's trending or doing really well and very visible. And so they want to connect with you because they saw value in what you put on someone else's post. So that's, a way of kind of bringing that connection together. And I have this little philosophy called collect and connect as we start to get back into networking a little bit more. It works for online virtual networking as well. But I'm always looking to not just collect cards, but really collect these relationships where, again, we may not ever do business, we may not be closely aligned, but it's someone that I could, as a professional, connect with someone else in the future. And hopefully I'm that for them. When they think of someone with a need as it relates to branding or design, I want to be thought of as the person that comes to their mind, so they can then make that connection. Just a couple of examples for myself. So I am, this is a group of professionals that I know through a chamber, and we were all part of the chamber. And we wanted to figure out, after our chamber duties, were no longer needed, how we could continue to work together, because we liked and respected each other as professionals. And so, we have a photographer, we have a brand strategist, designer, and we have a videographer. And so, it was like, hey, we have some synergy in the work that we do. We should find a way to work together. And so we kind of created this joint venture. And now we all partner on projects where we work with entrepreneurs and experts to deliver some brand strategy and messaging, as well as professional headshots and brand photos. And then we also do video content for them. So it's a great offering for people that are influencers and brand ambassadors, or experts and authors and things like that. So it's worked out really great so far. But if we didn't have that professional esteem for each other, then that wouldn't have happened. And so there are opportunities there to grow your brand. And this is not a separate company. It's just a joint venture that we all have decided to give some time and energy to, and it's started to take off. So think about those types of opportunities for you. The third R, if you're still with me, is referrals. And this one and the next one, wasn't sure which order to put them in, but referrals are typically, it just made sense to put the next one last. So we'll say that. But referrals are the idea of trust. There's trust implied there. When I refer to someone else, I'm saying that you, other person, should trust them because I trust them. And so I think we all know what a referral is, but it's the idea that I have this trust currency and I'm willing to give it on behalf of someone else, to another person. And so that's really valuable, again, in a world where trust is, less than it used to be. People have a lot of reasons to not trust. So, someone their trust becomes someone else's trust. And I just think that's very powerful. And, that kind of challenges the way that we think about referrals. That's really what's happening when I say, you should work with Leslie. I've had this positive experience and I'm confident that you will as well. And in theory, there's an increasing number of people that are willing to provide referrals on our behalf as they're out in the marketplace and encounter people that have a problem that we have the solution to. And ideally, that's growing. At some point, your business. So at some point, like every business sort of really relies on referrals, particularly in the beginning. There are other things that you can do as you start to grow. But I think even in that case, a healthy business has a good amount of people willing to refer business to them because they're visible and they've proven their viability of their solution over time. And so again, as more people see it and know, the solutions that you have and believe in it and have experienced a positive result, in theory, again, more people will be willing to say you should work with them because they have the solution to your problem. So I don't think referrals they should never go away, even if you have a different business model that doesn't rely on them as much as it might have in the beginning. And one thing that I'm learning that I want to pass on to the audience is that referrals can be requested anytime through the process. I've, in the past thought about, make sure you ask for the referral at the end. I think that's important and definitely should be done. But honestly, you can ask for referrals throughout the process of working with a client. And it's really about value, creating value from the very beginning, the first discovery call or consultation, through whatever work it is that you're producing on their behalf. If the value is there, then it makes sense to ask for referrals. And sometimes it's simply a connection to others that have the same pain points. And going back to the idea of research, the more you understand your customers' pain points, and if you're asking them, doing that research in the beginning, you're going to understand that, and it's going to be top of mind for both you and the client. So when you ask about others that have the same pain point that you can help, it's going to be a little bit easier for them to think about who they can make a referral to on your behalf. Another way is inviting and incentivizing referrals, considering a referral group. There's lots of organizations out there that exist just for the purpose of making referrals. or a program. And there's, lots of information out there about how to do that, but it may make sense for you to just create a system so referrals can come in on a regular basis in a predictable way. And as I say down here, you have to give referrals too. It's you're participating in relationships at that point, and can't just all be one way. So and proactively build those reputationships. So the more people that again know you, can hold you in high professional esteem, it's going to make them more likely to bring your name up in conversation as they get to know the solutions you provide, and they encounter the people that have the problems that you have the solution to. And especially, competitors and those in complementary industries. I know at the beginning of the pandemic, I was bringing together groups of other creatives, for the purpose of just having that connection that we were not having as everybody was kind of locked down, but also with the idea in mind to build these relationships and it was no longer helpful to sort of think about people as competitors, but more, in terms of how we complement each other, and not necessarily we're going to work together next week, but I want to have in mind who you help, what their problems are, so when an opportunity comes, I can make the referrals and the connections and relationships are there. So the last one of the four is reviews. And reviews is very similar to referrals. They're very closely connected. If that trust in referrals is implied, when someone gives a review after it's all over, that's the trust being applied. And so, they're saying these positive things that provide direct testimony of your skill set and the solutions that you provide. And so they should reflect satisfaction, they should reflect success, and they also reflect what we call social proof. And this is the idea that people copy the actions of others, and that they want to emulate certain behavior. And so the more people that say, yes, Ken is great, he is the person that you should work with in your business. As people do that more and more, it's going to provide more of this social proof and evidence that, maybe I should, in fact, partner with Ken, because there are a lot of people that I know, some that I like, and even some that I trust that are saying the same thing, that you're definitely the person to work with. Psychology behind that, and there's lots of data that you can look to as it relates to reviews. There's a study that found that reviews drive an average of 18% sales uplift, with benefits including increased conversion rates, order sizes, and repeat order rates. So the more real people that say this service provider is great, it's going to be a positive benefit as people see that. And then, going back to our equation, it allows for more people on the visibility side to see you as more capable and more competent on the valuable side. So reviews are important, and they need to be asked for, just like referrals, early and often. I think they make the most sense at the end. I think you want to put it in people's minds that you will be asking for a review, and not always, for the purpose of showing it off, even though you should showcase your reviews. If we kind of go back to the beginning, the review is really a point of research for you, because as people talk about their positive experience, what worked really well for them, it gives you a data point to look at, what you did well, how you created value, and how you can continue to do that or even do that better. And we think about reviews here, obviously positively, but occasionally, there may be a negative review. And even that, when sort of looked at through this 4R framework, is a point of research. Well, let me look at why this client engagement didn't go so well. What could we do better? And so reviews don't just puff up our ego and make us feel great, even though they help with that. It's really a point of research, and then we kind of put it back through the loop again. So helping people to write reviews, I found that can be helpful as part of a system. Sometimes people don't know what to say. They know they had a great experience, but they may not know how to present that. So kind of giving them a couple of frameworks, templates to start off with can be helpful. And here are just some recent reviews. I haven't been the greatest about collecting them. These are for me. Some of them are for the business. Some of them are for people that I, worked with in different capacities, like not necessarily as a designer or a strategist. I did some speaking. I did some sort of coaching and some other design work, but all of this helps to paint the right sort of picture that I want for people to think about me, to think about my business. So think about the reviews that you have, think about how you can get some more of them, and how they can be helpful in providing, again, that social proof of the fact that you are a quality professional, providing great solutions to real people's problems. So I know I said that there were 4, there's actually 5. Sneak it in here. But the 5th one is simply repetition, right? It's you can't just do these things one time. You can't just, get one review and sit on that for like 3 years. You have to be continually providing quality services, continuing to do research, because the marketplace, the technology, all these things are changing really rapidly. And so it's a continuous feedback loop, as I mentioned earlier. You're going to use all these things to conduct research about how your brand is performing, how your brand is being presented, and how it's being perceived. And then you're going to, keep doing them all to continue to refine your brand presence in the marketplace. It's not something that you sort of go through one time and stop. And again, the great thing is that these things don't have to take away from their actual revenue producing activities. They can be done alongside them. And as you do them more and more, you can develop these rhythms and systems, and a cadence that really works well for your business. So the 5th one that we don't want to forget about, as we add on to these other 4, is just repetition, doing it over and over again. And that will really help to build our brand. So just to kind of recap, the 4 R's: simple, sustainable, and they make sense for wherever you are in your business, whether you're just getting started or you've got a seasoned business. We could all use more reviews. We could all use more research to understand the questions that our customers are asking now that may be different than when we got started. The questions that we're asking in July 2022 are different than the questions we were asking in July 2019. Very different time then. If you're still doing the same business model, you're probably not at a competitive advantage. So change is beyond us, force us to kind of go through this thing, this cycle that we talked about, to be able to continue to grow our business brand. And I mentioned a few of the free tools that are out there. Public library, we all have access to that. There are lots of free networking groups. Your Google business profile, completely free. That's something very, very useful that people will see when they search for your business. You can provide them all the basic information they need to be able to work with you right from that. And so these things will either be working for you or working against you, right? And so my challenge to all the business owners in the room, both virtually and in person, is to use these 4 R's to be able to grow your brand. All right, just to close out, I do want to let people know that we recently started a service called Beam, which is brand enhancement and marketing. So it's taking what we do on the brand strategy and design side, and then translating that to a greater suite of services that help people to be able to market their business. It's ideal for those small to medium-sized companies that don't have in-house creative or marketing support team. They may have a director, but they really need the work of a team to help them execute their brand strategy and their marketing strategy. So, so that's there. We also have a link to a feedback survey that my intern Bella will drop into the chat. So would love to get your thoughts on how it went, some feedback from you. Again, that's part of my research to understand how to make these events better. We have a few minutes here at the end for some Q&A, but I really appreciate everyone attending. Thank you so much. And I hope this was helpful as you continue on the journey to build your own brand. All right, so we will stop the share. Yes.
So I was wondering, how can we get inbound referrals as opposed to just outbound?
So when you say inbound referrals, give me an example of what you mean.
Having someone reach out to you and say, hey, I want to refer you, as opposed to asking, hey, does anyone need help with anything that you know of that I can provide?
Sure. So how can we get people to provide referrals for us without sort of asking for them?
Yes.
Got it. Well, I think letting people know that you want referrals, that it's important to you, that it's a valuable part of how you want to grow your business. I think that is where I would sort of start with that. I think that, you know, people want to, like, we all want to be valuable, right? The business owner wants to be valuable in terms of the service they provide. But the customer, a satisfied customer, wants to be valuable to the business owner beyond just paying them money for a service. That's what I found. And so letting the customer know that, you know, what would be really valuable beyond what you've already, you know, done in terms of allowing me to solve your problem is being able to, you know, have you share other people that have the same problem, right? You know, if you've gotten value out of our work so far, I would just love to be connected to other people that have the same problem that you had, you know, and I think the way in which I work, really sort of having that discovery in the beginning about what the problems are, that allows us to have conversations throughout the process about that time, and kind of always that's the reference point. Even when we get to the end, when we've solved the problem, we can always go back to that and have a conversation about the value that they've gotten through the process and how that's, you want to provide that sort of value to other people that have the same problem. Yeah, great question. Anyone else have questions? We have a couple minutes left. All right.
I have a quick another
Sure,
question. As
sure.
long as I didn't want to take any questions from anyone else first, so if anyone has any, feel free to go before me. But my last question: how are some ways that I could use social media to build my reputationship?
Sure. So I think you can. Well, it's called social media. So the idea is that people are on there to not just be seen, but to see others and to connect in a social way, in a way that in some way sort of replicates what we do socially amongst, you know, each other as real people. So I think that, you know, you don't just go into a room and, you know, post up on the wall. You kind of start to have conversations, and obviously you're gonna like to talk to some people, maybe not like to talk to others, but I think having conversations, and whether that's participating in conversations that are already happening, creating your own conversations around, you know, customer problems or solutions that you provide. I think that's one way. And all that encourages people to engage with you, right? And so, part of this, I think, is also sort of showing that you're a real person, whatever type of business you have. Again, when we think about know, like, and trust, people won't know, like, and trust people, not necessarily brands or labels or, organizations. And so, particularly for small, medium-sized businesses, service providers, showing that there's a real person there, and not just the organization, is helpful, because that encourages people to open up a little bit, engage, and get to know, like, the person behind the business, right? Like, I have a positive impression of the business, but in a sense, online, I mean, everybody's trying to look good, It's like a party where, everybody's dressed up, and all good. So everybody, is putting their best foot forward. And so I think social media allows us to peel back the curtain a little bit and sort of show, yes, we're, running a business and trying to, be as professional as possible. But we're also real people, and we're learning as we go. And all of that creates conversation and the want for people to connect with the person behind the business. And so I think, especially for micro businesses, small one-person entities, that's really valuable, because there's a person there, and then with a person, there's a story, and you give people the opportunity to connect with you as a person, on that level, and build a relationship from there. So,
what's your impression, or what's your philosophy about building a thought leadership presence on LinkedIn?
So I think that, obviously you have to produce content, but that can be daunting, because you're trying to run your business, and so if your business is not producing content, that can be a challenge. But I think, involving yourself in other conversations, that are happening, is a great way to start to do that. And building, a community of people that know and understand what you do, and are passionate about it. I think if you can leverage, organizations or groups that are kind of already doing stuff, and you can closely align with them, I think that helps as well. It's not a shortcut, but that can sort of make the process a little bit easier. So when you're just starting out, it can feel very daunting, because everybody's an expert. And I think this is not necessarily about the numbers. Like, you don't want to just have a certain amount of followers or connections. At some point, you want to, looking beyond that, you want to be highly regarded, by the right people. So it's a combination of having the right conversations, with the right people, and balancing being visible, with, producing some great content, whether it's, blogs, whether it's videos, but there's nothing like showing up. And so you do have to have, at minimum, like a regular presence. And so, say things that are provocative, not necessarily controversial, but thought-provoking, and give people an opportunity to respond. So it's not just one-way direct communication, but, put your ideas out there, but also invite other people to engage. And that's going to create conversation. That's going to draw more attention, than just sort of definitively saying, this is the way it is, I'm the expert speaking, comments are closed. Like, you want to allow people to be able to challenge, to be able to, respond back. And through that, you will get more traction than if you just sort of say, this is how it is, I'm as my expert opinion, and just kind of leave it at that. So,
good philosophy.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're at 1:00. I want to thank everybody for participating. I will stop recording, and feel free to save the chat and connect with each other offline. And definitely please visit the link for the short feedback survey. It'll take you like 2 minutes, but that's really helpful for me as I try to get research and just improve what I'm doing. So thank you all. Appreciate your time on a Friday afternoon. Have a great weekend. Bye.